My favorite thing about this whole live thing is the countdown. The 3, 2, 1. You're on. Hi, guys. So, we're in that part. Hi, Debbie on Instagram. So, here we are, starting with our live. I think I need because a dream job for me would be to be Kelly, like the Kelly and Regis, but when it was Kelly and Regis, or what was her name before Kelly? She sings.
Kathy Lee Gifford?
Yes. I grew up on Kathy Lee Gifford, and I'm like, I want to be her.
I think you need bumper music.
She's kind of nerdy. Jingle. I don't know if you guys think this about Kathy Lee Gifford, and I love you, Kathy, if you ever see this, but she's a little nerd. She's on the nerdy, but she's cute and adorable side. Who's watching on Facebook, honey?
Kelly Cooler is watching.
Hi, Kelly.
Whitney Bray is watching. Maggie Shaw.
Hi, Whitney. Maggie. So, I feel like I need a Ryan Seacrest or a Regis. Not Michael Strahan.
Isn't that me? And aren't I the off-camera guy?
No, you're filming. You're filming. Their producer that they always talk to off camera. I haven't watched the show in years, literally years. And the reason why, let me just clarify, the reason why I don't want Michael Strahan is because he was so large compared to, oh, maybe I do want that. He was so large compared to Kelly. She looks like this little thing. Maybe I do want a large guy. So I look tiny. Who doesn't want that? So, hey guys. So,
Kim Baxter is watching.
Get out. Hi, Kim. She's one of my people. So, I went to lunch today with a very dear sister friend of mine, and she took me to lunch for my birthday, and we went to this Asian place. Tom is eating it off camera.
Jennifer Jones is joining.
Hi, Jennifer. And this is my dinner. Doesn't it look yummy? Starbucks, I don't know. I mean, Facebook, this might look washed out, but Instagram, you're literally seeing some goodness here. It is pink and strawberry and peach and stuff. And it looks like it's coming from, but if you guys saw my birthday, I got a ton of these for my birthday, and it was one of my favorite presents because I love their cups. But I made this. This is my protein shake, and it is my dinner, and it is deliciousness. So I'm on. There's some people on here who've had it, and they can attest to the fact that I make some killer, my kids even like them, protein shakes. But we went to this Chinese place today, and I started laughing because I'm like, I'm going to tell my people tonight what my fortune cookie thing said.
Was it a good Chinese place?
Well, you tell me. You're
say
eating
the
it.
Name.
I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like Chinese, it's like Latin and Asian food together. So, my fortune cookie said, do you ever play that game where you read the fortune cookie, but then it says in bed? You add in bed at the end just to make it fun and inappropriate. So, of all the people, of all the times, gets this. You have my fortune cookie says, you have something exciting coming tonight in bed. So I've decided Tom is bringing me Coke Zero and a Zero bar in bed. That must be what they're talking about, because that's what sounds exciting in bed.
And then that's all that we can think of.
That is all we can think of.
Becky Rhodes from Sojo is on.
So what?
South Georgia.
Yeah. So it's so weird. That is all y'all are gonna think about that I think.
After what you just said?
It's exciting. I said Coke Zero and a Zero bar in bed is exciting to me.
Oh, okay. But what was weird?
What else would I say? So, how do you guys like that?
Erin is watching.
Hi, Erin. I am getting nothing on here, so I see nothing.
Oh, we are ready to go.
All right, guys, so let's dig in. I'm excited, even though this is a heavy topic. How many? Let me see some hands. Hi, Alex. Hi, Amy. Your name on Instagram, Amy, throws me off. Hi, Amy. So, everybody, give me a hands up. if you saw this week's video and you know what we're talking about. Okay, so I'm gonna start seeing the hands. Tom's gonna start seeing the hands. We are diving into emotional, like why it's important to deal with our emotional pain, our emotional baggage. Somebody said to me recently, one of my clients said this week, they were like, well, when I hear you talking about me say emotional pain, I think of grief and loss. And I'm going to touch on that again next week in the video. And that is what so many of us think about when I say, I want us to deal with our emotional pain, our emotional baggage, because we think, well, grief and loss. And so if you aren't new or recent to grief or loss, you could think, hey, I don't have really anything to deal with. But this is where I want to get real clear, because we've been doing a lot of work. I've been trying to stack the work. There's a method to the madness here. Doing the work on ourselves, on our relationships, and in order to become emotionally fit. Again, I'm going to say some things that you're going to hear me say again next week, but I am learning with all of us. We need to hear things over and over, like 7 times, I think is what it says. We need to hear 7 times before we are like, oh, hi. Oh, my Aunt Debbie just joined. Hi, Debbie Jones. Right? Yeah. I'm getting old, I can't see. So we have to do the work. So just like when you decide, hey, it is time to get fit, you have to usually adopt some really good habits. And usually, especially like in my case, you have to look at your current habits and say, well, I have some things that I do that aren't healthy, so I've got to release them, but I have to replace them with some healthy habits. Guess what? Y'all, it's exactly the same thing when we want to be emotionally fit. We have to adopt some healthy habits, and we have to kick to the curb destructive emotional habits that we have. So I want to dive into some of those emotions that we tend to gravitate towards when things aren't going well, or that tend to knock on our door because we've lost a job, or we've lost somebody that's dear to us, or we don't get to move when we want to move. That's not hitting close to home. Is it, honey? When we lose a job, or we have to stay in a job that we hate, or our kids are making poor choices as they enter adulthood. There are things that are going to happen, and so we all have emotional baggage that we tend to pull in. And so I want to unpack those for the next few weeks, one at a time.
Would it be fair then to say that we should be taking inventory, emotional
yes,
inventory?
I've been saying that for months now. I want you when January 2019 rolled around, most of you, I bet, thought of things on the outside that you wanted to make better, right? I want to stop smoking. I want to drink more water. I want to run a 5K. I want to lose 25 pounds. That is where we all go, because I'll be honest with you, it's the easiest place to go. We want to do the outside, because if we fix the outside, then we think that's going to make the inside better. And let me tell you, I know so many people who are health nuts, and you guys know what you define health nut, however you define that, but you know health nuts who have some serious emotional issues because the outside isn't fixing the inside. If we fix the inside, the outside starts to follow. When we fix the inside, it becomes easier to fix some of those outside habits. But fixing the outside does not make it easier and does not start to naturally fix the inside. Does not. It does not work that way. But it does work this way. When you start with the inside, it will flow into the outside. Just like if you take a cup, a dirty cup, and you go to put it in the soapy water and clean the inside, guess what's happening to the outside while you're doing the inside? It's getting clean. So when we work on how we are built, what is making us who we are, when we work on that, it's going to overflow to the outside. Inside out. Okay? So that is why I am challenging you. Do not get comfortable at the end of this year and coast into January and say, I'll deal with my loneliness. I'll deal with the fact that I tend to feel self-pity. I'll deal with my anger. I'll deal with it in January. Don't do that. Do not coast the end of the year. And that's what we tend to do when we get to September. We tend to just kind of slide and coast because we're waiting for that big January surge. But what I want to encourage you with, if you will jump on it now and start doing some work, even a small change will give you big reward. If you'll jump on it now, by the time January comes around, your momentum is already going pretty strong. So stay with me. Come to these Thursday nights. Watch the Tuesday videos. Check in with me. I'm going to encourage you. You can make, hi Jody, you can make some serious progress. That's the word. You can make some serious progress between now and the 1st of 2020, and you can already be well on your way. So I just want to encourage you, don't coast from here to December. Okay, jump in. So in dealing with emotional things that are trigger points in our emotional well-being, a lot of times it doesn't mean it has to be something huge and heavy. Take, for instance, a temper or feeling angry, or really being you feel like oftentimes you are dictated by fears. Whatever it is, whatever you could say, yeah, that is one. Because guess what, y'all? All of us have one emotion that tends to be our Achilles heel. All of us, all the time. There's always one emotion that from our childhood kind of sticks with us, and it can be a trigger, and we need to know that trigger, and we need to know how to speak back at it, okay? So I used the analogy in the video, and I feel like a few of you really like the analogy. I like the analogy. I learn in analogies. Things stick with me in analogies, but it's literally, have you ever had anything, I'd love to hear you guys just tell me, mention what it was, that in your house growing up, or maybe in your house now, that you had to do just so it would work. You had to jiggle the handle a lot. We had a bathroom in our last house that we would have to jiggle the toilet bowl or the toilet thingy so it would stop running. And it was this, and then we started having high water bills and all of that, and it took so long, and we paid a lot of money in water bill, and it was a $5 fix. $5. And we paid hundreds in extra water because we didn't fix it and get somebody in there because, one, I was afraid that they're going to say, oh, we have to rip out the whole bathroom or something. We're afraid. And two, you have to sit around and wait for the plumber to show up. And sometimes you're like, I don't want to deal with that. That's how we are with ourselves. We think, oh, if I dig into that, if I touch that thing, that anger issue, it's going to turn into a big thing.
So just to amplify this,
or it's going to make me, or it's going to cost me something, or I'm going to have to work a long time through it. We get scared to even deal with it.
So just to amplify this analogy a little bit, if we would have paid attention to that small issue in the first place, it could have led to change right away, but instead we became a little bit comfortable with it. We would hear it in the background, but just kind of push it down and ignore it.
We get very comfortable with, we're like, you know what? Oh, and this is one that, this is for me. I love, because I have a bit of a temper. Shocking, right? I mean, this does not look like a person who has a temper. I have a bit of a temper. And I love when I meet other moms who say things to their kids that I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I would say. It makes me feel better to be like, okay, so they're like that. It's okay. It makes me think, okay, it's fine. And I justify me and my temper because other people have it. It works both ways, y'all. We can find people who make us feel good in our stuff, or we can find people who spur us on to be better. And we can find people who they're saying, yeah, this is my struggle, but I want to work on it. And if we're in that same place, we're like, yeah, me too. And that encourages. We can find people to feed whatever it is we want to feed. And I oftentimes can find people who I'm like, oh, that makes me feel better about me. Hey. Shoot, I used to watch The Real Housewives of fill in the blank of city just because it made me feel so much better about my life, because those women were whack.
Hey, you're getting a lot of agreement here. Robbie is now watching along with Gabby.
Who's Robbie? Robbie who?
Robbie McBryant.
Hi, Robbie.
And
have we met?
Gabby Bullock is also watching.
Gabby, one of my favorite neighbors from up north.
Yep.
Hey, you guys really are on here.
Becky's connecting with your analogies, and she's glad that she had been used as an illustration last week.
Becky. So, anyways, when you have that thing in your house and you finally fix it, and you're like, wow, why did we wait so long? That is life-changing. It's amazing. You know, growing up, there was a drawer that when you pulled it, and if you pulled it just a little too much, it would go all wonky, and then you're fighting with it to get it back in, and you're like, this drawer, you want to take it out and throw it. No anger problems or anything here. And when it finally got fixed and it just works the way it's supposed to, you're like, this literally changed our life. This is what I want you guys to connect with. When you finally decide to address a trigger emotion or an emotion that creates pain. Hey guys, having a conversation with someone today made me realize we don't really put this in the emotional category, but being a people pleaser is definitely one of those things. And when we finally release that and say, I'm not going to allow these things to trigger me to want to make somebody feel better because I know that's what they're looking for, or to keep the peace or whatever. It's that thing that it's like the duck with the feet underneath the water because we are wanting to people please. I'm going to put that in the category of an emotional trigger, an emotional thing that we need to address. When we finally do, freeing. It's like Oprah when she told everybody, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. You get freedom. Everybody gets freedom.
So then are you asking people that is people pleaser in and of itself the issue, or is it asking a question, why are you people pleasing?
I'm sorry, I was distracted by somebody's comment. What'd you say?
Is people pleasing in and of itself the issue, or is it asking the question, why am I people pleasing?
I think it can be both. People pleasing to me is coming from another need that we have, but because people connect to the fact that they are a people pleaser and it's deep, for me personally, kind of give it its own emotional category that is an emotional pain point that people don't deal with, but they're constantly driven by it. Sorry, I think it's a strawberry seed from my homemade strawberry protein shake. Aunt Debbie, what do you mean by you may need to peel the onion for that one? Can you explain? I think she's talking about what I just said, so I'm going to give you a second to respond to that.
Robbie is from South Georgia.
Hey, Robbie from South Joe. Sojo. That is Tom's new thing for all the people. It's because there's a lot of people from South Georgia who watch and come in. So like people from from SoCal, they always say I'm from SoCal, Southern California, because we're so cool. So now Tom is saying Sojo. So Amy Para on Instagram is saying, I feel like as I get older and I don't put up with a lot of things that was always so hard for me. I feel like I'm growing there. Mm-hmm. I do think that is something that comes with age, Amy, and just maturity and watching it. I think when you get in your 40s, you do start to get a little bit of that. I'm running out of dams. So, okay, so on Instagram, the person in the background, that person is Tom. That's my Aunt Debbie. My little redheaded vixen aunt. She's like a little...
Hey, Aunt Debbie.
sexy woman there, that she's gonna be like, I don't like you anymore. So the person in the background, Tom, said maybe that was the issue of pleasing people was the issue. And why do you feel like you have to do that? I think he said, but it made sense. I think that you have to peel the onion to see why you feel like you need to please people. Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Agree 100% that you have to peel back, because it is a trigger and there's a reason for it. But I also like to put people pleasing in its own as an emotion, as anger, loneliness. I like to put that as an emotion, even though we don't often think of it as an emotion because it's more of an action. But it's because you've got to get deeper and find out where it's coming from. But when I say people pleasing, people immediately connect with that. So that's why I put it in the emotional category. So I hope that makes sense.
Jessica Miles has beat Jeff Miles to.
Hi, Jessica. So what do? I'm going to be dealing with self-pity, loneliness, anger, fear, shame, self-criticism. So those are some of the emotions I'm digging into week by week. A couple of these I might put on 1 week, it depends. But the thing that I want you to remember is we can't run from this. I mean, you can spend your whole life running from something, but all you end up doing is being tired and avoiding and having a disconnect in many of your relationships, because when we run from an emotional trigger or an emotional pain, we tend to build walls. So I don't want you to run from it. I'm going to give you tools over the next few weeks, and then here on Thursday we're going to talk about how we apply those tools in a deeper way. But I'm going to talk about how we have to allow it to come in. When you're at the ocean, we trust the ocean. Have you ever felt like you weren't real sure about the ocean? Have you ever thought, I don't know if these waves are going to go back out? Or have you ever thought, are they going to come back? We trust the ocean. We know it's going to go and it's going to come. We also know that if we stand with our feet firmly planted, I'm not talking about waist deep. I'm talking about when it's coming up to your feet. It doesn't have the power to roll you over. Unless you're standing there in a hurricane, but in that sense, stop it. When we stand there, we know that it's going to come and it's going to go, and that we can stand there and we'll be fine with your emotions. And when in dealing with them, we have to allow them to come. So I'm talking about self-pity next week, and everything that I talk about, I never want you to feel guilty or like you're not supposed to feel self-pity or anger or lonely. Yes, we are human beings. We're going to feel them, but emotions run their own course. They naturally will leave, but we in our brain hold on to them and we feed them, and they can negative emotions can become addictive. I don't know if you know that, but negative emotions can become addictive. They can rewire the brain because we get something from them, and that's why it becomes addictive, because we like what comes from them. And it sounds so weird, but we do. We get some sort of a payoff from negative emotions at times, and if we continue to feed that, it becomes addictive. So I hope that's making sense for all of you. Also with I'm losing my train of thought here. Okay, I want to make sure I'm getting all the comments. Am I?
Yeah, so far. I just want to repeat what you just said. We are always going to feel emotions, and we need them, but they can also become addictions where we actually like some of what they bring.
Yes. Yep. So any questions or comments on that, bring them in. Your questions come a little bit slower than I'm presenting this, so I will come back to that.
Becky wants to know if something like being a hypochondriac. I don't know if she's asking, is being a hypochondriac, is that like a symptom of another negative emotion? I'm not too sure what she's asking.
Being a hypochondriac is feeding another that's the flower that is blooming from another need that needs to be met. Attention, feeling significant. That is usually a hypochondriac oftentimes is lacking feelings of significance. They don't feel significant, so I have to create significance around how I feel so that I get the attention. That's a lot of times where that's coming from.
Gotcha. Jason Camp is watching.
Hi, Jason. So, moving on. Pain journeys aren't good. But if we will go on them and we will allow them to teach us, to change us in a good way and not to plant seeds of bitterness and anger, our pain journeys can produce good, beautiful things. It is not good that you are experiencing pain. I never, ever, ever want you guys, anyone, to ever believe or think that that is good, that you're going through this, because people will say things because they don't know what to say, and I'm going to assume that they're well-meaning, but people will say things like, this is a good thing that you're going through this. It's a good thing that your heart is broken because you didn't need that person anyways. It's a good thing that you found this out now. They will say it as though what you're feeling and what you're going through is a good thing. It is not. Hear me. Our pain is not good. What you're experiencing isn't good. What is good, if we will allow it to teach us, to change us, what it produces in you will be good, will be beautiful. It can be, but it can also be ugly and destructive if we allow it to plant seeds of bitterness and anger, and we start to feed bitterness and anger. That is not good. That is not beautiful. That is not what it's for. The purpose, if we want to have purpose in our pain, which so often it feels senseless, and why do I have to feel that? I'm not going to tell you I know why, but if we need to grasp any sort of purpose, for me personally, it's to know this is going to produce something good in me. Just like and I don't know a thing hardly at all about gardening and that kind of stuff, but I do know this, and I'm pretty good at it, probably too good at it because I like doing it. When you prune back your stuff, you're cutting those plants, you're cutting it off, you're breaking it so that we can create space for it to rebloom again. That's about as far as I know about horticulture and landscaping and planting and growing stuff, but I do know that when we cut it off, and that we think when you cut things off that can't be good, and I'm sure the plant's not like, hey, that hurts, but when we remove things out of our life, a lot of times that's a painful process, but it can leave space for something beautiful to come back there.
So I have a more literal example. If we experience a loss, losing somebody is never good. It's never good to lose somebody. Nope. But if it causes you to develop empathy of understanding what it's like to lose somebody, then you can come alongside somebody in the future who has gone through their own loss, and you can relate to them and interact with them and encourage them with that.
Yep. Losing somebody is never good. It just never is. And to even utter that is just, it's maddening to me sometimes. But what I think it does, and it's like, why did I have to go through that just so I can empathize? I would love to empathize with people without having to experience it. But guess what, y'all? We can empathize without experiencing things. But when we do experience things, we become so much more, I hope, that is the hope at least, more gracious, more empathetic, more nurturing, more giving, because we've experienced our own loss. If we tune into it, because everybody has lost something. It may not be as big as the next person, or it may not be as something as traumatic as somebody else's, but we have all gone through things that we've lost, and I hope that it's changing us to be in tune with other people and where they are in their journey. And you know what? Loss is not a competition. I just want to say that, just in a conversation today, thinking about this, sometimes I think we have to compensate for maybe the fact that our loss is small compared to somebody else's, and so we feel competitive over loss and pain. Stop it. It is not a competition, and we do not have to justify our feelings over something that is a pain point for us because somebody else has something worse. I get so frustrated being in this work, feeling like people aren't allowed to feel. And it's like, well, listen, don't feel as bad as you're feeling, because think of those people in the Bahamas who've lost everything. Well, dadgummit, of course I can't feel bad over my car breaking down and I've had the worst day and my kid is not feeling. You get to feel what you feel, and not compared to how bad or how much better anybody else has had it. You get to feel what you feel, and you are not in competition. Don't ever let anybody feel like you're in competition or that yours doesn't matter because somebody else has it worse. Guess what, guys? Somebody's always going to have it worse. Feel what you feel, but don't live there. Don't live there, and don't use it as an excuse to hurt anybody else. Sorry, I got the finger out and it sounds like a teacher, so put that back. Okay, so any other comments or questions? I've got more that we could talk about here, but hi Vera, I don't want to put too much on you guys because this is heavy. We're going to dig up each week. We're going to, next week I'm talking about self-pity. And that one, listen, every week might not touch you, but this one, self-pity, show up here next week, because ain't a person here who doesn't encounter self-pity. And I was laughing because I thought, you know what? Self-pity is that one emotion we can certainly trace back to childhood, because if you've been around children, they learn self-pity as soon as they can talk. It's not fair. I don't understand why I have to do that. This is the worst day ever. I mean, they start that junk like at 2.5. Self-pity knocks on the door early, and it entangles us, and we can really spend time. I mean, the whole self-pity party, truly, we treat it like a party, and we hang out all night. So tune in next week, because it will hit home for you. That is one I could say hits home for everyone or everybody.
So in closing, as people are taking inventory, are you suggesting like the snowball effect? You start small with one thing to round out the year? Is that what
yes.
you're suggesting?
Always. You guys, Tom loves for me to talk about this, because this is kind of one of my niches.
Is it the power of one?
I knew he was going to say that. I wrote an article on this that was published a couple years ago. The power of one. And I so believe this. I don't want you to ever feel like from me, you're supposed to change 5 or 6 things. I don't think I will ever encourage you to do that, because the power and change, just looking at one little thing that so like if you're like, I'm dealing with anger and I pretty much hate my husband. The two might be related, but let's pick one that we're going to address first. And we're going to build on one change at a time. So if I want to become healthy, or you want to become healthy, I think it's always smart and builds momentum if we pick one healthy habit to incorporate. And I'm a big believer on putting something in, not always taking something out. So, power of one. I'm real big on that. So just think of one thing that you need to give attention to emotionally or relationally between now and the end of the year, so that you feel energized and you have the momentum to head into 2020. That's such a great year. 2020, we've been saying that. It sounds futuristic, and here we are, we're in the future. I want you to go into 2020 feeling like you are becoming an emotionally fit person. Because when we are emotionally fit, if you were watching me earlier, when we go for the inside, things on the outside start to follow. So, any other comments or anything I need to address before we end here? I love having you guys here. This is so fun. I'm actually starting to I've looked forward to these the last few weeks. You guys are so great, and I love that you show up and we have fun. This is free coaching for you guys. You get a free half session with me. This is part of you're getting a taste of what I work with clients with on a regular basis. Anything?
Perfect.
Aunt Debbie says, hi, Tom, you're a great sidekick.
Great.
Thank you, Aunt Debbie. So he's my Michael Strahan. He's big.
Just off camera.
So I'm gonna go see what's happening for me tonight. See if my fortune cookie little thing is gonna come true. That it's gonna be an exciting night. Oh, you guys, don't think about that. All right, see you guys
That's a great way to end it.
on the social
Into
media.
the night.
Bye, guys.